You know, usually when you buy a major appliance, there is this comforting expectation of permanence.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like buying a sofa or a dining table, right? You drop a few £100s, you slide it into its designated spot in the kitchen, and you just assume it's going to be part of the furniture for the next decade.
Right. I mean, it's viewed as a foundational piece of the household infrastructure.
You got
It's not supposed to be a consumable good.
Exactly. But then you look at what is actually happening in British kitchens right now, and suddenly that expectation is it's completely shattered.
Yeah, it really is.
We are looking at a retail landscape that is, well, honestly, it's a trap. So, welcome to another deep dive. Today, our mission is to take a really hard-hitting investigative report from the YouTube channel called Ripped Off Britain.
It's a great channel, by the way.
Oh, brilliant channel. And the video specifically is titled 5 Washing Machine Brands in the UK Robbing You Blind and 5 that are worth the money. And we are going to extract the absolute most crucial financial and engineering secrets about your household appliances.
And, we use the word secrets very deliberately here, because what happens inside the metal casing of these machines is it's hidden by design. It's purposefully obscuring the true cost of ownership.
Let me start you off with a story from the source that just perfectly captures this nightmare. So there is a family in Sheffield.
Okay.
In 2019, they do what we all do. They buy a new washing machine. They pay, I think it was £329 for it. They install it. They run the relentless weekly cycle of school uniforms, work clothes, towels.
The standard family laundry marathon, basically?
Doing marathon, yeah. But by February 2022, so just about 3 years later, it stops mid-wash. Dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The engineer comes out, runs a diagnostic, and says the control board has failed. The repair, quote, £185.
Which, I mean, on a machine that originally cost £329, that is the tipping point where repair makes absolute zero economic sense.
Right.
You are essentially forced to abandon the asset.
So they scrap it. They buy a second machine. But then 2 years after that, so now we're in 2024, machine number 2 develops a bearing fault that is so loud it literally wakes the street.
I know that exact sound. It's like a jet engine taking off in the kitchen.
Yes. So another engineer comes out, another massive quote, another replacement. In 5 years, this family spent over £800 and ended up with 2 machines in a skip and a third one just, counting down to its own death.
See, this is the critical baseline we need to establish right up front for you listening. This wasn't bad luck.
It wasn't a fluke.
Not at all. That failure timeline, the repair cost that deliberately makes fixing it unviable, the forced replacement cycle, none of it is an accident. It is an engineering calculation made by an accountant long before that machine ever leaves the factory floor.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if this is a calculation, we really need to know the variables. And according to the source, the first major variable is geography. Buying a washing machine in the UK is apparently a completely different reality than buying one in Germany or Scandinavia.
Yeah, you really cannot treat the European appliance market as a monolith. The physical stress placed on a machine in Britain is entirely unique, and many manufacturers simply do not account for it.
The source points out that British households run between 5 and 7 loads a week, which feels to me like laundry is an extreme sport.
It is a lot, yeah.
But I have to push back a little here. I mean, is a spinning drum really experiencing different physics in London versus Berlin? It's just dirty laundry. Is volume the only factor, or is there an environmental trigger we're missing?
Cool. The sheer volume of annual operating hours is part of it, certainly. But the real silent killer is the water chemistry.
The water chemistry.
Yes. British water is exceptionally hard, particularly across the southeast, London, and the east of England. It has a much, much higher mineral content than almost anywhere else on the continent.
Okay, so we are talking about limescale building up on the heating element, because we've all seen those adverts with the fuzzy heating coils.
Right. Limescale is a nuisance, but the actual catastrophic issue here is galvanic corrosion.
Galvanic corrosion.
Yeah, let's look at the actual mechanism. Inside your washing machine, hiding behind that shiny stainless steel drum, is a component called the drum spider.
The drum spider. Sounds sinister.
It's just a 3-pronged piece of cast aluminum that connects the drum to the drive shaft. Now, in soft water regions, this aluminum holds up beautifully.
Okay.
But in the hard water zones of the UK, that mineral-rich water essentially acts as an electrolyte.
Wait, like in a battery?
Exactly like a battery. It turns the inside of your washing machine into a slow-moving battery. It initiates an electrochemical reaction that actively consumes its own aluminum structural support.
So it's literally eating the metal from the inside out just by running a normal wash cycle. That is insane.
Precisely. So a machine that is sold across Europe might perform perfectly well in Stuttgart or Amsterdam for a decade, but you drop that exact same machine into London, and the aluminum spider might be running at the very edge of its structural design tolerance after just 4 years. The metal weakens, it fractures, and eventually it just collapses under the rotational force of a spin cycle. The brands that survive the UK are the ones engineered with extra tolerance. The ones on the robbed blind list simply pretend British water chemistry doesn't exist.
And they get away with it.
They do. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you really have to ask why these multinational companies don't just upgrade the material of the drum sputter to withstand the water.
Right. Why not just use stainless steel or coat it?
And that brings us directly to corporate strategy.
Of course it does. The source calls this the fall of the engineers. We're dealing with two massive forces that have completely hollowed out the mid-range appliance market: corporate consolidation and planned obsolescence.
It's a toxic combination.
But wait, why would a legacy brand willingly ruin a 20-year reputation for reliability? That seems like brand suicide. Doesn't that just kill customer loyalty?
Well, it would be brand suicide if the consumer actually had a choice of where else to go. But historically, independent manufacturers lived and died on their engineering reputation. Their engineers designed machines with 20-year lifespans specifically to secure your loyalty.
Right. My parents had a machine that lasted forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But over the last few decades, those independent companies were bought, merged, and absorbed by a few massive multinational conglomerates. The engineers were pushed out of the boardroom, and the accountants took the wheel.
So the math changed.
The entire financial architecture changed. An accountant looks at a spreadsheet and calculates a harsh reality. If a machine lasts 20 years, the company sells one machine to that household.
And they don't want to sell just one.
Exactly. If they purposefully engineer it to fail shortly after the warranty expires, say, at year 6, the manufacturer gets to sell you 2 machines over a decade, at full profit margin both times.
And the illusion of choice in all of this is what absolutely blew my mind when I was prepping for this deep dive. You walk down the aisle at a retail park and you see all these different logos: Beko, Hotpoint, Indesit.
They look like fierce competitors.
Right. Beko is the UK's best-selling brand by volume. Hotpoint is literally the most owned washing machine brand in the UK by household count. But they are all playing for the exact same team.
Yeah, they are all ultimately owned by the same Turkish parent conglomerate, Arçelik, either directly or through a joint venture with Whirlpool.
Which makes the current state of Hotpoint an absolute tragedy. Buying a Hotpoint in 2026 is essentially just trusting a memory. You think you're buying the indestructible tank your parents bought in 1988, but you're not.
No, it's a completely different product now.
On December 31st, 2024, the last UK manufacturing site in Yate, Bristol, closed its doors for good. That was 104 years of continuous operation just gone.
It's a massive loss for British manufacturing.
Now, Hotpoint is just a shiny badge slapped onto a machine manufactured overseas by a completely different company. And let's not forget the terrifying baggage that comes with that badge: massive fire risk, recalls covering 500,000 washing machines and 800,000 tumble dryers.
Those numbers are staggering.
Not to mention the Grenfell Tower Fire investigation explicitly pointing to an Indesit-made Hotpoint fridge freezer.
It represents a profound shift in quality standards. And because Beko, Hotpoint, and Indesit share this corporate DNA, when you finally give up and replace your broken Beko with an Indesit, you are funding the exact same replacement cycle.
You're just handing the same guy your money again.
You are putting money into the exact same corporate pocket, just under a different paint job.
But the strategy gets so much more aggressive with Indesit, doesn't it? It's not just that the machine breaks.
Yeah.
They actively trap you when you try to get it running again. Let's talk about the control board.
Oh, the proprietary software.
Yeah. I look at this like buying a car, but the manufacturer has welded the hood shut, and only the dealership has the digital key to open it.
That is a very accurate analogy. Indesit uses proprietary programming on their control boards. In a traditional machine, if a board shorts out, a local independent engineer can source a replacement and swap it right in.
Easy fix.
But with Indesit, the new board requires specialist digital equipment to code it to that specific machine. Equipment that independent repairers usually do not have access to because the manufacturer tightly controls it.
So you are completely locked out of the independent repair market.
You are forced into Indesit's own centralized service network. And once they have you there, they use that monopoly to push owners onto monthly repair plan subscriptions. They do not just offer a simple one-time fix.
Wait, a subscription for a washing machine repair?
What's fascinating here is how a fundamental reliability failure, a broken machine, is completely transformed by the manufacturer into a recurring revenue stream. You pay a monthly fee for as long as you can tolerate the repairs, and then eventually you just give up and replace the machine entirely.
It is brilliant, cynical, and just completely infuriating all at once. Now, you might think, fine, I will avoid the budget aisle. I'll go for something premium looking. I'll buy a Samsung.
People love the way they look.
They are visually striking. They have slick marketing. They play a little digital tune when the wash is done. But the source data shows that once that warranty expires, the premium facade drops.
Samsung is a prime example of a machine that provides an excellent user experience in year 1 and a reliably expensive nightmare in year 4. And it comes right back to the chemistry we discussed earlier.
The hard water.
Independent UK engineers report the aluminium drum spider as the most common failure mode for Samsung in those hard water zones. The metal corrodes, fractures, and the drum just drops.
And here is the kicker for you listening. If you think you can just claim that on the warranty, you can't. Samsung classifies this catastrophic structural failure as wear and tear.
Which is very convenient for them.
Exactly. It lands entirely on your wallet. On a 600-pound machine, their repair quote is sitting at 200 to 300 pounds. And if you're sitting there thinking, I'll just watch a YouTube tutorial and wrench this myself, you can't. They've locked the software.
Exactly like Indesit, Samsung's diagnostic systems are highly proprietary. You might pay an 80-pound call-out fee to an independent repairer just for them to look at the machine and tell you they cannot read the digital diagnostic code.
That is maddening.
You are forced to call a Samsung-authorized engineer and pay a second call-out fee. By the time the final quote is generated, the economics dictate that you throw your 600-pound machine in the skip.
So software isn't the only way to lock you out, though. Sometimes they just build a physical wall. Let's pivot to Kindeke and Hoover, which sit under the hair group. They market heavily on value, pushing that low showroom sticker price. But independent engineers report a bearing failure timeline that consistently falls in the 4 to 6 year range.
And we really have to look at the manufacturing mechanism to understand why that bearing failure is a literal death sentence for the machine. It is all about the architecture of the outer tub.
Okay, break that down for us.
In a traditional repairable machine, if a bearing fails, an engineer takes the tub apart, presses out the old bearing, presses in a new one for a few pounds, bolts it back together, and you are good for another 5 years.
Sounds perfectly reasonable. But most of these modern hair, Hoover, and Kindeke models use a sealed plastic outer tub. Why?
It comes down to assembly line speed and material costs. To make a splittable tub, you have to drill holes, use stainless steel bolts, and employ human or robotic labor to secure them. It takes time.
Right, time is money.
Instead, these companies use ultrasonic welding. They take the two halves of a cheap plastic tub, press them together, and fuse them instantly on the assembly line. It takes 2 seconds and costs pennies.
But the downside for the consumer?
It means that to replace a single 10-pound bearing, you cannot open the tub. You have to buy a completely new drum and tub assembly, which costs almost as much as the machine itself.
It makes repair economically pointless. It turns a major household appliance into a single-use item. And just to give you an idea of the corporate quality standards we are dealing with here, Hair and Hoover had to issue a massive product safety notice for their tumble dryers in May 2025.
Exactly. So a 250-pound Kindeke machine that you are forced to replace twice in a decade, paying delivery, installation, and disposal fees every single time, is actually a 500-pound machine in disguise. It's incredibly hollow value.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source doesn't just leave us in despair. There is a survival guide here. There are brands actively engineering for the decade. And the golden child of the mid-range market seems to be Bosch.
Bosch,
Yeah.
specifically the Series 6 and Series 8 ranges, is what independent appliance technicians consistently say they would purchase for their own homes.
Which is the ultimate endorsement, really.
Absolutely. The real-world data shows these models lasting 10 to 14 years under typical UK household use.
Which is more than double the lifespan of the budget brands we just talked about.
And the engineering reason behind that longevity is that Bosch utilizes highly controlled drum movements and highly efficient spin profiles. It is not just thrashing the wet clothes around violently to hit a high spin speed.
Right, so it's a smoother operation.
That smoother, controlled action significantly reduces the mechanical wear and tear on the bearings, the suspension struts, and the motor assemblies over thousands of cycles. But the absolute golden rule with Bosch, the mechanism that truly separates them, is their written spare parts commitment.
Yes. They actually commit in writing to making spare parts available for 15 years after a model is manufactured.
Which changes the entire total cost of ownership equation. Because if a bearing finally does give out at year 8, you actually have the option to repair it rather than being forced to scrap a perfectly good machine simply because a 15-pound part is obsolete.
But I want to jump in with a massive asterisk here for you listening. You cannot just blindly walk into a shop, see the Bosch logo, and think you are safe.
Very true.
The source is very clear. You must avoid the cheaper Bosch Series 2. To hit that lower entry-level price point, Bosch compromised. They introduced those dreaded sealed unrepairable plastic drums on some of those models. You have to check the spec sheet for a splittable tub. If it says sealed, run.
That is a vital distinction. Brand loyalty is no longer enough. You have to verify the specific model architecture. Moving up the survival list, we have LG, specifically their direct drive front-load models.
Direct drive. I mean, that sounds like fantastic marketing speak. But wait, in a normal machine, a rubber belt absorbs some of the shock. Removing the belt sounds great for maintenance, but doesn't that just transfer all the rotational stress directly into the motor itself?
It is a really fair question, but the physics actually work in LG's favor here. In a standard washing machine, the motor sits at the bottom, and it turns the drum using a rubber belt pulling on a pulley at the back.
Which we've all heard squeaking at some point.
Exactly. That belt stretches, it snaps, but more importantly, it pulls the drum off-center, creating uneven wear on the bearings. LG engineered that out entirely. The motor is attached directly to the exact center of the back of the drum. The rotational force is perfectly balanced.
So you are eliminating the uneven pull.
Exactly. Fewer moving parts, perfectly centered gravity, and critically, less vibration. Vibration is the force that tears machines apart over time. This fundamentally more durable drivetrain is why LG is comfortable backing that specific motor with a 10-year warranty.
That's a huge vote of confidence in their own engineering.
It is. And real-world UK data places these front loaders at 10 to 15 years of reliable operation.
But there are caveats to mention here, too. Top-load models have a much weaker reliability profile, though, to be fair, we rarely buy top-loaders in the UK anyway.
Very rare.
The bigger issue with LG is parts obsolescence. While Bosch guarantees parts for 15 years, LG parts can sometimes vanish from the supply chain after just 8 years. So if something breaks late in its life, you might be out of luck. Now, what about AEG? Because they used to be the absolute gold standard for durability.
They did. And it is important to be objective about AEG's current reality. Following their acquisition by Electrolux, there was a measurable drop in build quality.
The accountants again.
Yes, exactly. Electrolux shifted the manufacturing economics. The old AEG used to over-engineer their products, sometimes taking a loss on the hardware just to maintain their reputation. A machine bought in 2006 truly felt like a tank that could outlast the kitchen itself. A 2025 machine is built to a much stricter, spreadsheet-driven cost target.
So they aren't the indestructible tanks they used to be,
Yeah.
but they are still on the worth the money list.
They are, provided you buy the right tier. They still sit above Bosch in several independent reliability rankings, including the July 2025 WIT survey, which noted their fault rate is significantly below the market average.
That's good to know.
But you must skip their entry-level models, where the Electrolux cost-cutting is most obvious. You want to look at the mid to upper models, specifically the Series 6000 with ProSense technology.
Ah, ProSense. That's the tech that actually weighs the launder load and adjusts the water and energy dynamically, right?
Yes, which obviously saves on utility bills.
Yeah.
But more importantly for longevity, those Series 6000 machines still feature splittable, repairable tubs. A competent independent engineer can actually open them up and work on them without needing specialist proprietary coating equipment from the manufacturer.
So you're not locked in.
Right. You can realistically get 12 to 15 years out of a Series 6000.
Okay, now we have to sound the alarm. Because the source brings up Miele. And this genuinely feels like a betrayal of consumer trust. For decades, Miele has been the ultimate flex, the legendary 20-year lifespan. It was the machine you inherited. But they have quietly let it trap in their entry-level machines.
This is perhaps the most critical warning in the entire deep dive. Miele's entry-level and lower mid-range W1 machines Specifically, the 7-kilogram models and some 8-kilogram models no longer use their famous stainless steel outer tubs. They have quietly switched to a material called Glaron.
Claron, which is just a fancy trademarked word for fiberglass reinforced plastic.
It is, and the betrayal goes deeper than just the material. Miele lists these new Glaron tub units as not available as a spare part.
You're kidding?
No, they are permanently sealed units. If a bearing fails, the machine is completely unrepairable by design. This is coming from Miele, the brand historically synonymous with generational repairability.
That is heartbreaking. If you are going to invest the kind of money Miele requires in 2026, you absolutely must check the spec sheet. You have to buy the upper W1 range, the 8-kilogram or 9-kilogram models that are still manufactured in Germany with actual stainless steel tubs.
Huh.
If the spec sheet says Glaron, put your wallet away. That 10 seconds of research saves you hundreds of pounds and a decade of regret.
It is a stark reminder that you can no longer navigate the appliance market on brand reputation alone. You have to look at the specific materials used in the specific model. Which brings us to the final survivor on our list, and it is a massive underdog, Ebac.
The only washing machine still manufactured in Britain, built right up in County Durham. And it sounds like they are building machines the way they used to be built before the accountants took over.
They are targeting a 10-year lifespan openly. They use an aluminum drum spider, not plastic. They use an unsealed drum with replaceable bearings. And they back it up with a full 7-year warranty, provided you get the machine serviced annually. Their models start around 450 pounds.
But here is the massive retail conspiracy with Ebac. You will not find an Ebac machine in major showrooms like Currys. They just can't get the shelf space. Because an independent British manufacturer building a machine designed to be repaired locally rather than replaced doesn't feed the retail sector's required replacement cycle.
Right, there's no ongoing margin for the mega retailer if you aren't coming back every 4 years to buy a new one.
It completely disrupts the financial architecture of modern appliance retail, which really forces us to look closely at the math behind all of this, because the showroom sticker price is an illusion.
Let's lay out the real financial breakdown for the listener right now.
Yes, please do.
Let's run the numbers over a standard 10-year period. You buy a 280-pound budget machine from Beko or Hotpoint. The data says it fails at year 5. You pay an 80-pound call-out fee just for the engineer to tell you it's beyond economic repair because the tub is sealed. Then you have to buy a replacement for another 280 pounds. Your total cash outlay over a decade is 640 pounds.
And that's not even counting the headaches.
Exactly. You have endured the sheer stress of 2 major breakdowns, wet clothes sitting in a dead machine, and 2 large appliances sent to a landfill.
Now let's look at the alternative. You buy a 550-pound Bosch Series 6.
Based on the engineering lifespan, it lasts the full 10 to 14 years. Maybe you pay for 1 minor service call in that decade for 50 pounds. Your total cost is 600 pounds. The supposedly expensive machine is actually cheaper by 40 pounds, and you completely avoid the stress and environmental guilt of the forced replacement cycle.
The cheap machine charges you in these scattered, unpredictable, agonizing payments that feel manageable until you zoom out and look at the decade. The premium repairable machine charges you once.
This raises an important question about how we calculate the total cost of ownership in our daily lives. Nobody in the showroom will do this math for you because they make their margin either way. But as a consumer, you have to be armed with 2 golden questions before you hand over your debit card.
Let's cement those 2 golden questions for the listener right now. Question 1. Is the outer tub sealed or splittable? If it's sealed, an accountant designed it to be thrown away. Walk away. Question 2. Does the manufacturer commit in writing to spare parts availability for at least 10 years? If they don't, your repair options will vanish into thin air exactly when you need them most.
Those 2 questions will save you so much trouble.
So what does this all mean? It means the days of just trusting a familiar logo are over. We have to treat buying a washing machine like a defensive act. By taking that extra 10 seconds to check the spec sheet for a splittable tub, you are not just saving yourself hundreds of pounds and avoiding the sheer panic of a flooded kitchen. You are actively refusing to participate in a cynical business model that fills landfills with unrepairable plastic tubs.
It's about recognizing that the physical machine is no longer the product. To many of these massive conglomerates, the washing machine is just a temporary vessel. It is designed to break, purposefully forcing you into a hardware subscription model every 5 years.
And that is a terrifying concept. It leaves you wondering if major appliance manufacturers have quietly turned the washing machine into a hidden subscription service running on a secret countdown clock? What other buy-it-once appliances sitting in your kitchen right now are doing exactly the same thing?
It is definitely something to ponder the next time you hear a strange rattle from your fridge or your dishwasher.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. May your laundry loads be light and your drum bearings forever silent. We'll catch you on the next one.